Good afternoon, everybody. This is Marcus Hanscom. I'm the Director of Graduate Admission at Roger Williams University. I'm the Education Chair for NAGAP, and I'm joined by Mary Pascarella from our conference committee in NAGAP. She's from Sam Houston State in Texas. And we want to we appreciate your time this afternoon learning a little bit more about the proposal process for our upcoming annual conference in Toronto. So we're excited because it's our first annual conference to happen internationally, so we're excited for that. If you could just let us know you hear us, hopefully you can, just jump into that questions box on your screen, and you can just type hello or where you're from or something, and we'd love to do that. And if you have questions during the session, you can ask them there as well. So this will be relatively quick, but hopefully gives you a good idea of what we're kind of expecting in lines with the conference itself, and what the proposal process is like. And hopefully, if you're all here, you're probably likely putting a proposal in, and hopefully we can serve as a resource for you as you're preparing that. So I'm going to jump forward here. I'm managing 3 screens, so let me get over on the right screen. So we're going to talk to you a little bit about some important information that Mary will go through shortly about the conference itself and kind of logistics and things, and talk to you about format, what to expect with the whole proposal process and the system. Many of you have probably used the PRESYS system before, so it's probably not too scary for you. And we'll talk a little bit about how you can optimize your topic. We are looking for more advanced topics this year if we can. Obviously, our regular topics that we'll always cover will be included, but we want kind of a specific call, and many of you probably saw it. If you're an advanced professional, we're looking for some additional sessions that can help our more seasoned professionals in GEM. And then we'll let you know some kind of final thoughts and answer any questions that you have. And if you have questions throughout the session, you can enter them in the box. And I see a few of you entered in there, so thanks so much. Glad you can hear us. But we'll answer your questions throughout the session, but also block some time at the end. And then Mary and I are both available to you as a resource if you need help with your proposals and things. So I'm going to pass it over to Mary for the next section here.
All right, hi. So as we talked about, the conference this year is in Toronto, Ontario. It's April 10th through 13th. We will be at the Sheraton Center, which is smack dab in the middle of downtown. For proposals, those will be submitted using the PRESYS electronic submission system, which you can find on the NAGAP website. The deadline is going to be September 3rd at midnight, and those of you that are presenting will need to register for the conference once that opens later this fall. Just on the next slide, we have the navigation. We just wanted to make sure everybody knew where that conference proposal submission system is. And if you just go to nagap.org and click on the annual conference, the page that comes up will have a hyperlink. It's called Electronic Submission System, and that is that PRESYS platform that Marcus was talking about. At the end of today's presentation, all of this information will be available to you, including the slide deck, and much of the information that we'll be talking about is actually contained within this electronic submission system, PRESYS, so you can follow those hyperlinks to review any of that information as you're working on your proposals. We will be talking and seeking proposals that are going to be generally aligned with the theme of the conference this year. And as we talked about that, it is going to be global outlooks reaching beyond borders. That does not mean you have to submit proposals that are graduate international admissions types of things. But we are looking for things that encompass the entire life cycle of graduate enrollment management. In a couple of slides, we'll be talking about the categories that presentations will fall into, or the educational domains as we call them. And the topics for these domains are coming from your feedback. And we also, as I said earlier, will contain can have examples for those on the PRESYS website, so you can follow some hyperlinks if you want to reference those. And the topic of your choice would just be something that's relating to the educational domains within the graduate enrollment management area. So I'm going to turn the next slide over to Marcus, I believe.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. So we, over the last 6 to 8 years, we've really kind of revamped the whole proposal process and identifying topics, and the domains are new. That was about 5 to 6 years ago on the Education Committee. And we really kind of looked at all the topics over the course of the years that have come from conferences and PDIs and webinars and other things that we've done, and analyzed what was most effective and most needed for our members and what formats were appropriate and those types of things. And that's how we kind of built the call for proposals. And so we've added items like experience of the presenter in there, so we can look at somebody who's perhaps presented a lot in the past, not necessarily at NAGAP, but presented on a particular topic that has some expertise that may be different than somebody who just identified a topic in their office and felt like talking about it. So it's not a critical, it's not like the top, I guess, characteristic when we're looking at topics, or proposals, I should say, on whether somebody has the right experience or not. But that's something that helps contribute to making sure that we have a really good, high-quality conference and making sure that people have the relevant experience that's going to be helpful to those who attend. So we've looked through a lot of that over the years, and also we've kind of aligned it with the initiatives that we have as a board that we hope are in line with the needs of the members. We've done a number of member assessments and things. And we've looked in about 4 to 5 years now, it might actually be a little longer. Josh Lefebvre and Chris Connor and a number of others were involved with this kind of definition of graduate enrollment management and building what this model looks like. And they built this incredible kind of research around the GEM model and have presented it around the world. They've presented it at EIE and Europe a number of times at this point, and also around the country here. And so it's a model that has really kind of led the path to where for content going forward, that's really going to help all of us as we all kind of evolve from just an admissions operation, but to mirroring a lot of different student life cycle areas. And we have a number of committees dedicated to these things. So we have our education committee, and we meet at least once a year. We're going to be probably adding a second meeting this year. But we really deep dive into all these topics and what's been done at the conference and what's effective. So it's a very thoughtful process that we have to make sure that our conferences are helpful and effective for all of our members at all experience levels. And that's why we're looking for things like more advanced topics this year to really kind of round that out. And we also have an eye to obviously what's happening in the news and the political climate and the international climate. There's a lot of different things that impact how we're going to approach the topics and themes for each year. Now, going forward, I'm going to talk a little bit briefly when we're talking about reaching beyond borders, and Mary touched on this. This is our global outlooks being the theme. We're not just talking about reaching beyond borders and going over to Canada. We're talking about reaching beyond borders across the student life cycle. So it's kind of a play on words, so to speak, that we're really thinking about synergies across admissions and financial aid, for example, or alumni recruitment and admissions, or student services and financial aid. So looking at all those things and how they intersect, and that's where we're hoping to get some core topics around those areas this year. The domains you see here have morphed a little bit since they were first introduced about 5 years ago, but their primary focus is ideally the same. So we have most of the time your topics are going to fall within one of these buckets. And these are kind of core to the ideal GEM professional. When all that research was done for graduate enrollment management, we looked at what are the core functions and core skill sets that are necessary for an ideal GEM professional. And these 7 kind of core areas cover a lot of those topics, and that was really where this was built from. So obviously we have recruitment and marketing, which has been true to our heart since the beginning, but also things like money matters that's not just limited to financial aid. It could be things looking at budgeting or net tuition revenue models. So there's any number of things around that. Integrated operations, and that kind of covers CRMs and applications and processing forms and those types of things, and how you can better serve students. Obviously student services, alumni relations and connecting alumni in the various parts of the student life cycle, modeling and strategic planning, which is really critical to most of us, especially at the upper roles, and career staff and personal development. That's something we've really expanded on the last couple of years, because we want all of us to be able to come away from the conference not only with the latest and greatest CRM information or models for graduate enrollment management, but also having you come away with some tangible skills that are helping you. Maybe it's better presentation skills, and that's something that we have a new subcommittee in education dedicated to speaker development. So maybe we'll have a session on those. So you can come back with improved skills on how you can maybe better network with people, or improve skills on understanding international audiences, or being more inclusive. So all of those things are opportunities for us to kind of delve deeper. So I kind of talked about a few of these items here, just a few topics kind of related, just to get your kind of wheels turning. Many of you are probably already thinking about topics, but these are just some potential areas that you might consider. Whether you're offering scholarships or grants, those are things that fit into money matters. Engaging students across the life cycle with a CRM, doing student remediation and retention, things in student services. Then we've got building bridges, maybe for an alumni recruitment network, building and sustaining your GEM model, which is a little bit more advanced and strategic. And then finally, kind of that career development that I talked about, and skills that are, if any of you have gone to the PDI, for example, in the summer, for our new professionals, that's obviously focused on very much staff development. And there's some kind of soft skill pieces of that, but also some very hard skill GEM related issues, and whether it be legal issues and other things that are covered there as well. So just as you're thinking, these are kind of the different buckets that we're looking for you to kind of marry your topic underneath one of these things to be fulfilling that kind of more broader education necessary for a graduate enrollment management professional. And so I'm going to pass it over to Mary.
All right. So we've talked about the educational domains. Your proposals are going to fall into 4 options. We are seeking educational presentations that would be either a panel discussion, a presentation, a special interest forum, or a vendor presentation. A panel is typically going to be 3 to 4 people with a moderator, and we're seeking things that would be interdisciplinary to help lead a discussion with a set of questions. Presentation is fairly self-explanatory. As you consider your presentation options, structure those so that you have sufficient time for audience participation, take-home messages, and next steps, and of course the all-important questions. Special interest forums are also led by facilitators, but those would be more like your roundtables. Those are discussions where you have some specific topics and small group. They're a little bit more free form, and this is where participants are able to share their experiences, best practices, and thoughts. The vendor presentations, those are $3,000 for companies that are exhibiting at the annual conference, and $5,000 for non-exhibiting companies. And these, of course, would be product-based presentations on things that relate to graduate enrollment management. Your principles for your proposals, these are just what we're going to be seeking. So what did you learn this year that you want to share with us? So what new information? Do you have a set of best practices that fall into one of these educational domains? Is your topic important for ethical implications? Make sure, again, that you allow time for interaction. The sessions are approximately an hour in length, and depending on the option, if you're going to have a panel versus a special interest forum or a presentation, you want to allow time for audience questions and participation. And of course, we're always going to be seeking clear takeaways. Those are going to align to your learning objectives and what the audience will have gained from participating in your educational session.
So we had, a few years ago, had talked about, many of you have been in NAGAP for some time, probably have seen topics categorized as beginning or intermediate or advanced. Those were the old levels that were used. And so about 4 to 5 years ago, we really looked at that and said, does this really make sense? And I think it was David Spivey, he was at Northern Arizona at the time. He's in Pittsburgh now, and I'm drawing a blank on where he is. But we were sitting around the education table, and he started talking about pedagogy, and we started thinking, does it make more sense for us to look at what types of how is the work being done? Is it more tactical or is it more strategic? And can we categorize our sessions in a different way? And ultimately, this is where we landed. And we did this because I've met a lot of people at either NAGAP conference or at other conferences that were just dropped in as a director, for example. Maybe they were in undergraduate admission and they were given an opportunity to contribute in the graduate admission office, so they moved over there, and this was all completely new to them. Or maybe you've got some people that came completely from industry, and then they're coming in, and this is an introduction as well. So we're trying to think of the fact that, yeah, you might be a seasoned professional with 20 years, but maybe experience, and you've never been in admissions. So maybe you need more tactical understanding of admissions versus somebody who's worked in admissions for 30 years. So we took that approach. So as you're framing your topic, think about, is this a tactical how to do X kind of session, or is it operational? Is it kind of planning and understanding, like maybe it's selecting a CRM and doing an RFP, that kind of thing? Or is it more strategic, where you're analyzing something that happened, you're looking at kind of the synthesis of ideas and coming up with a solution? Maybe it's more budgeting, things like that that'll fit in a larger bucket that's kind of a 30,000-foot view. How do we make things better or develop efficiencies? That's more strategic. So hopefully that makes sense for you, but kind of aligning those three different areas as you're building your topic and aligning it with the right audience, as opposed to somebody who has X years of experience but instead needs to do the tactical thing. I'm in a director role, but I might need the strategic information about how to plan net tuition revenue models. But then I also need to know the tactical ways of recruiting internationally, because we haven't done international recruitment in my office. So I would have different needs just in my own space. Even though I'm a director, I would not consider myself somebody that doesn't need the tactical experience in certain areas. So that's why we have this, and hopefully that makes some sense for you.
Okay, so the overview of the proposal application on the PRESIS website, when you submit your proposal, we'll be seeking your personal information and your bio information, and that would be for you and any participants for your topic. We're going to be looking for your experience, if you've had previous experience, and then of course we're going to want you to select the session type. Is it a presentation, or is it maybe a special interest forum? Your approach will be the next item that we'll be looking at, and your audience level, and then your educational domain. What of those categories is your topic going to be aligning to? Where are you going to be marrying your topic? Is that going to be money matters or student services? The learning objectives will be what your audience is going to take away, what they'll have gained from attending your session. So those would be those clear, actionable items that we'll want to provide. And then, of course, your outline, that would just be basically the topic and the sub points within each topic within your presentation. You don't have to provide full fleshed out details. Again, it's just going to be that high level outline. If you're doing a panel, you will want your questions that you're going to be moderating within that session, and then any collaboration that you would need within that audio visual. Do you have additional attendees, and that type of information. And then all of that is going to be contained within the proposal area of your presentation or topic that you're submitting for consideration. We'll also be seeking some additional information from you as far as audiovisual and any AV needs. So all of that would be provided in your submission. You will have a chance when you go in there to submit and leave it open until you're ready to actually do a final submission. So you don't have to do it within one session, but you can edit it as many times as you need to until that September 3rd deadline. And then as you're considering your topic, consider some ways that you can collaborate to develop your session. There's lots of different ways that you can do that. Of course, we're available here, but you have colleagues that you work with. We have a number of web resources available for you on the nagap.org website. If you have a local chapter, and of course, your vendor partners that you work with professionally, and any listservs or information that might be available in those types of venues. Your local library, of course, is great. And any of our past publications that you would find on our website. And if you feel like you need some help running your topic by some professional colleagues is always a great idea. And of course, if you need some assistance from us, we do have a speaker development subcommittee. And those individuals are listed on your slide there, and that's Kate McConnell, Tony Fraga, and Greg Henderset.
Yeah, thanks, Mary. And I just wanted to underscore the Speaker Development Subcommittee is a new group, and the 3 individuals you see here are going to be the core kind of contributors to that group, and are all people that are very well respected and have presented a lot and have a lot of great experience. And you probably recognize, those of you that were at NAGAP last year, Greg was our conference chair last year, so you've probably seen Greg around quite a bit. But they, along with Mary and I, can be great resources for you, so feel free to reach out to any of us, as we can be helping you in developing your sessions, or even connecting you with other people who are interested in doing a panel or something. So let us know about that. What we ask for you to do is, and I'm sure many of you have been to sessions like this, where you go to the conference and somebody sits up there and gives you a biography of their school for 45 minutes or an hour. And that may be helpful in some regards to hear about kind of their pitfalls and things. But ultimately, think about some of the best sessions you've ever gone to. They're likely ones that you rolled out of there and you came out feeling excited. You maybe had something you could implement right away. Maybe you had a list of things that you were going to implement right away. So as you think about those sessions and you're developing your own, how can you make sure that your session is delivering the same thing for the attendees there? So make your session clear and concise. Avoid slides full of text. PowerPoint 101 stuff is very easy. But also, as people come out of there, have you given them opportunities to walk away with at least something that's actionable or measurable from your session that they can take back, and they go back on the Monday after the conference and say, I'm going to do this. So as much as you can, integrate takeaways. I've taken the approach in the past of doing assignments, like homework assignments, and I've given a list of them. And as at the end of the session, I kind of recapped what the 5 or 8 things were that they should do, and have followed up with people. And that's another thing. Grab business cards as people are walking out the door, or get a list of people to sign in, and offer to stay in touch with these people. So if you can create opportunities that are actually learning in your session and able to do something back in their office, and then even something you might be able to follow up on later on, that'll be much more impactful for people than just coming in and saying, yeah, we implemented Slate and here's what it does. And nothing against Slate, and nothing against any schools that talk about that. But the more impactful sessions are going to have something that's really key and that you can take away. And if you have data to support any of your arguments, or support work that you've done, or if there's a project that was effective, this is a very easy example would be if you're setting up a new recruitment program and you put it into place, and then you show that the next fall you had a 5% increase in enrollments. Well, that's a very demonstrable piece of data that you could show to people. And we use some words here just to kind of give you an idea of we want key action verbs. As you're developing your learning objectives in the proposal itself, we'll be asking you to outline what those key takeaways will be. And maybe you're going to walk away with a scholarship plan, or an alumni recruitment plan, or it's an analysis of your net tuition revenue models. Whatever that may be, you can have some clear takeaways from these sessions. So here's some just examples of learning objectives. And you see those kind of really bold action words at the front there. So determining content and strategy for a new student web page. Maybe you're making a plan for what that is. Create a plan to monitor student success. Analyze your graduation data to determine graduate outcomes and viability. These are all, it's fairly straightforward stuff, but just want to make sure that you kind of see what these things look like, and you make sure you have an impactful session for your attendees. So when we go in September and October after the deadline, and Mary will talk about this, there's a whole group of us that will be analyzing the sessions. We have a number of rubrics, and we'll show you this in a minute, and we kind of use those to score, for lack of a better term, the proposals. And this helps us to really kind of build a really valuable slate of sessions for the conference. And we deliberately try to spread topics out among the GEM life cycle. So if we have 100 admissions sessions and 20 student services sessions, we're probably going to take more student services sessions than overwhelming everybody with admissions. And there's other opportunities there. In the past we've had, maybe there are, I'll use the Slate example again, but maybe there's 4 or 5 schools that are all putting in proposals about what it was like to implement Slate. Well, maybe we can, as an education committee or conference committee, say to those 4 or 5 schools, how about you present as a panel together on the implementation of Slate? And then that way we're delivering something really high value at the conference and accommodating all 5 of them to participate at the conference. So those are types of things that we think about when we do that. As I mentioned, we look at any level of experience, but that's a piece of information that we consider. But kind of the key elements that we rank is kind of, are you talking about something that's current and important? And is it something that people really care about? Are there really defined outcomes and things that people want and they're going to need and be able to take back to their office and act upon? We're also looking for a topic that's very well defined. So I'll give an example that I'm kind of connected with right now. We're thinking about advanced special interest forums to help serve some of the more seasoned professionals that we can go in and talk about inclusion, for example, or talk about budgeting. When we originally were kind of tossing that idea around, it was like, oh, let's just have a special interest forum for advanced professionals. And that sounded great. But then we were like, well, what's the topic going to be in? And the initial suggestion was, well, let's just talk about challenges in graduate enrollment management. Now, most of us could probably talk for hours or days on that topic. So that was a little challenging as we kind of formulated that. And then it was like, well, if we're going to create something that's about GEM challenges, are we going to have defining questions for that? Is somebody going to lead that conversation? What's that going to look like? So that would be kind of an example of somewhere where you can get a little bit more refined. So I think what we're going to do is present a series or propose a series of special interest forums on particular topics. So instead of just GEM challenges, we'll have one on finances, for example. We'll have one on international recruitment and the political stage right now. We'll have one on inclusion issues and gender norms and GLBTQ issues and using gender pronouns on an application, things like that. They could be more specific. So we want you to have a topic that's very clear and something that makes sense that you're going to cover in an hour and have something really impactful and helpful for your attendees. And you know about obviously presenter qualifications being a final piece of that. So I'm going to turn to Mary for this next slide.
All right, so as we stated earlier, the deadline is September 3rd. So at that time, at midnight, the PRESIS website will close down. So you want to make sure that you get that submitted before then. We will be looking after that through the period of time through October. We're going to be evaluating the proposals, and then in December we'll notify you. And as far as the evaluation process, it's many of us who evaluates them, so it will be Marcus and myself, as well as the conference committee chair and sub-chair, and additional committee members depending on the volume of submissions that we have. We will be aligning these things to the rubrics for each education session, and again, those rubrics you can see on the PRESIS website if you want to take a closer look. And that will be our next steps through the fall. So expect to hear from us in December, early December typically, on the result of your submission. And those will be sent out by email.
And I just got a note from Christy that she gave us a gift and extended the deadline to September 4th. So
okay,
an extra day because September 3rd is Labor Day. So don't worry about rushing to get it for Labor Day. We have an extra day. Thanks for that, Christy. So I just want to talk very quickly about the rubrics. These are all on Precisa, so you can dig a little bit more deeply into these. But you see they're ranked on a 1 to 5 scale, 5 being the top. And this is kind of where we get an aggregate score of each proposal, and then we use that to kind of fill the conference. But again, we're also looking to assemble a conference that covers the GEM life cycle. So there may be scores that maybe there's a ton of scores, top scores for a whole bunch of admissions ones, but we want to really focus on including other areas. So we really kind of give a little leg up, for lack of a better term, to topics that are covering alumni or student services or financial aid or international issues, political issues, those types of things. So we are really looking for a well-rounded conference, more so than just a pile of admissions sessions. And in the past few years, we've actually had a lot of non-admissions proposals, and that's been really helpful. So I encourage any of you, that's not to discourage any of you that are submitting admissions proposals. We absolutely need them and use them. But if anybody is proposing anything outside of admissions, that's particularly helpful for us. I'm just showing you here really quickly what a good topic is going to have, something that's very relevant to the needs of our members, but also relevant to the theme. And we talked about kind of crossing over. That's not a mandate that you talk about crossing over in the life cycle and kind of reaching beyond borders. But if you can, that's more helpful in supporting the goals of this particular conference. So it's based on best practices and research and so on. Then looking at outcomes, we want something, again, that supports the conference topic, but also has very clear key takeaways that we believe that the proposal you've put forward really is going to give people actionable items that they take home with them afterward and communicates next steps. Your title and abstract has to be really clear. And this is something that I've had a lot of people reach out to me over the years, like, how can I really write an effective title or an abstract that really makes this sound exciting? So definitely reach out to us if you need any help with that. But think back again, the last time you flipped through a conference book or used the guidebook app on your phone when you're at NAGAP and you read the session titles, most of the time you're not getting the full description when you're scrolling through like that. And most of us have ADD now that we're all on our smartphones. So if you're kind of flipping through and you see something, you're going to read the title and go, yeah, that sounds really great. Or you're going to go, I don't know if that's really good, but it may turn out to be an excellent session. So sometimes the title and abstract can really make or break a good session, or at least getting people to your session. So writing something good there will be very helpful, not only in the proposal and submission process and where we're going to be identifying if you have a good proposal, but also ultimately getting people to your session. And finally, we're looking at experience, and we've talked a bit about this before. We're not looking at a bunch of directors to present. That's not our intent here. Our intent here is to find people that have some level of experience in particular areas. And I can name very junior staff, for example, that have just exceptional experience working with inclusion issues, for example. So I would take those people over a director or VP any day if they've got really good experience in those types of issues. So it's not about your title, it's about the experience that you have with a particular topic. So be sure to articulate that in your proposal. It has nothing to do with whether you're an admissions counselor or VP or anywhere in between, just what you know about that particular topic. And I'm going to pass it over to Mary.
Okay, so just to kind of wrap things up, we just wanted to go over some final thoughts with you. We really want you to submit a proposal, and as far as your takeaways and what you can get from this, it's just a great experience overall. All of us have learned something this year, and some of us have work experience that we want to share with others. So we're your peers, and we'd like to hear from each other. So it helps you share your knowledge. It helps you grow professionally. It looks great, of course. We all know on our resume and our LinkedIn. It's good for your school because you're promoting where you work, and that helps you explain why you want to attend the NAGAP session with your directors. And there's just a number of opportunities when you're speaking at a NAGAP conference. You get to meet some members and have some real conversation. The networking is fantastic, and you get a lot of feedback, and you get a lot of information sharing and ideas relevant to the topic that your session encompasses that you might not have known had you not talked about it to a group of your professional colleagues. And this is definitely something that you can add to your resume and your annual evaluation and you know, promote your school a little bit. So we do like to hear from each other in our proposals. And on our next slide, just kind of a takeaway thought that you have. Our theme this year is reaching beyond borders. So we want to hear about your results, your successes, and your failures, and all of that, of those things that have encompassed your topic that has compelled you to you know, share it with your professional colleagues. And those takeaways and those action verbs that we were talking about to really engage your audience in your topic and to have some questions and some food for thought. So it's a really great opportunity for you to share your knowledge and educate us about what you've learned.
Yeah, and ultimately our goal is to have everybody walk away from the conference going, wow, there's no better way to spend my money or time. I just got really great information. I can go back. I'm a much better professional. I can contribute better to my school, and we're going to be better off and have solid results in our office. So, and I'm sure that's what you were all hoping for as well. So as you're getting these proposals together, and I recognize, and this is part of the reason why we have a speaker development subcommittee now, is that I recognize some of you may not have presented before or you have limited presentation experience. We're happy to support you in any way you can, and we can for that. So if it's in helping with your proposal or helping with delivery, or if you just want somebody to hear your session beforehand and say, is this good or can we tweak it? Those resources are all available to you. So consider what your strengths are, what your expertise is, maybe something that you have an interest in and you've started dabbling in. Maybe there's something you've started just kind of working on, but maybe you feel like you don't have the full experience to do a session. Maybe there's somebody we can partner you with that you could work on a topic that you're really interested in. So think about those as well. Obviously, you want to consider the learning level. We talked about the tactical, operational, or strategic element of your session. So think about how you can frame your topic in one of those three areas, and we will identify that in the conference program on Guidebook on the app. We may be switching that, so maybe Guidebook is the wrong one to say, but our former app, create your proposal in Word, type it out, see what it looks like, share it with colleagues, share it with us, and get feedback. And then you can put it into the system, so you don't have to worry about monkeying around in the system and saving and all that if you don't want to. A Word doc could be perfectly sufficient. Remember, the abstract that you provide to us is going to be in the brochure, or in the program itself on the app. So make it something that's exciting and really descriptive and helpful for what is there. And make sure to cite your experience in the bio area that relates to the topic itself. So again, if you're somebody that's a junior level staffer, but you've got 5 years working in inclusion issues, tell us that, especially if that's related to your topic. We don't necessarily need to know your entire background professionally, but really illustrate to us why you're a great speaker in a particular area, and that'll help us a lot. We have to read through a lot of these, and that's a good problem. I hope we have hundreds upon hundreds of these to look at in the fall, because that really helps us put together a great conference. But as we're reading through these, the more that we can see yours stand out, the better, just like applying for a job. So give us a good abstract and a title, and really cite what your experience level is and how it's going to help with your topic. So with that, we've thrown kind of a lot at you. Hopefully this was helpful. If you have any questions, we're happy to answer them. I saw that there was one question regarding a session on inclusion issues, gender and identity matters. That's something we absolutely want to include. I'm hopeful that we will get some topics that come kind of organically from the membership on those areas. I also want to make sure that we put in a special interest forum that'll be more discussion based, but for advanced professionals on those issues. And then one of the other kind of functions of the education committee, and this has been more of late, is that if there are known gaps in what proposals we get, we can kind of actively solicit speakers on particular topics to make sure that they're covered as part of the conference. So we do have the committee that will be actively working through all of the content and making sure, kind of one of my goals for the education committee is to make sure that our curriculum is broad and covers everything an ideal GEM professional will need, not only at the annual conference, but also through our webinars, our eventual podcasts, the PDIs that we offer, the pre-conference institute at annual conference, those types of things, so that you can go kind of across the year with a variety of things that cover different topics, and that we're not feeling like there's a certain group of people that aren't getting development, or there's a certain topic that's getting beaten to death and we need to talk about something else. So, we talked about the digital marketing series this summer with Carnegie Dartlet, for example. That's our focus on this series for these 4, but we're not going to be hammering on digital marketing after this for the rest of the year. We're going to have other topics. So that's something that we're being very deliberate about and will be seen through the conference. There was a question again about the inclusion. If we could bring back somebody from a few years ago, I'd be happy to talk to Christy about that. That might be an option to do that. And we can look into extended sessions. That's not something that we've done a whole lot of. There's been a handful of them over the past few years, but some sessions have essentially been double sessions with a brief break in between. And that allows us to basically take a deeper dive into certain topics, and that could be a certainly very relevant topic, and we'll bring that back and see what we can accomplish with that. Unfortunately, right now, presenters do not receive a discount on the registration fee. That's something we've discussed, and this unfortunately is not an option currently, but maybe potentially in the future we'll consider that. But the professional value of presenting. I presented at my first conference in 2009. I think that was in New York City. And the doors that opened for me professionally just have been immense. And the network I've built from just that, and then eventually through NAGAP and NAGAP, ultimately got me my job here at Roger Williams. I'd argue that NAGAP played a very big role in that, because I know they were attracted to that. The fact that I presented, but also had a very deep network of people that I can just pick up the phone and call pretty much any of you or anybody that I've been connected with through the board and through presenting and various members to help with various issues here. That was very sellable to my campus here. And I know there's a handful of us in NAGAP that had similar experiences there. So I think there's always great value in presenting as much as you can, even if it's not in a specific financial dollar amount. We will make this recording, by the way, available on our NAGAP YouTube channel. So we'll send this out to you following. I actually have to head up to our NAGAP joint workshop right after this. So I will try to do that tonight, or I'll get it to you tomorrow or Friday at the latest, so you can have access to the recording and the slide deck. I see. So there's a question regarding budgeting for the conference, and you might not be approved for it until you get closer. That certainly happened. We wouldn't discourage you from submitting a proposal, so please do that. Maybe you can note that on your proposal that funding may be a hurdle for you, but please let us know about that just so we can kind of plan. But if you have a really great session, I don't want that to hold us up. And often, if you get an accepted presentation, I'm sure as many of you know, you take that to your boss and say, I've been accepted to present at NAGAP, especially at an international conference like we have this year. That might help give you fuel for the fire to get the budget approved to go. So I always encourage people to put the proposal in, and worst comes to worst, we can cancel sessions and move things around if we need to. I've even filled in and done sessions at the last minute because we had somebody drop the day of. So we're very flexible with that. We obviously don't want to get in that situation if we can avoid it, but we understand that financials are a very real part of the picture for going. So are there any other questions at this point? Mary, I don't know if there's anything you want to add to what we've been discussing.
No, I don't. I just think that it's a really great opportunity. I'm looking forward to seeing everybody's proposals, and please reach out to us if you have any questions.
Great, thanks. I saw one question came up here. It's actually a great question. So, is it discouraged for people to present solo, or do you prefer 2 to 3 people? We don't have a set preference on that. Frankly, many of our sessions are presented solo. So it's more about what kind of content and value and experience that you have related to the topic than it is a certain number of people in front of the room. quality over quantity. I guess it's the easiest way to answer that. I've seen plenty of sessions where there's a pile of people in the front of the room and I learned nothing from it. And I've had plenty where I've had single people there that are telling us all sorts of stuff, and it's been really beneficial. So there's no discouraging of one person or another. However, if you feel like you have a topic that could benefit from a panel and you just don't know who else to connect with, we can help you connect with other people to do that. So if it adds value to have other people there, great. But it's not going to hurt you one way or the other. I think that's everybody. Everybody's questions, and we've had 100% of you stay on the whole time, which is great. I never see that on the webinars. So just want to thank you for your time this afternoon, and Mary, thanks for all your contributions. Mary's our education chair on the conference committee, and she'll be part of the education committee broadly for the organization. We're really excited what the next couple of years look like. So we're looking forward to your proposals. September 4th now, remember that. And if you have any questions in the meantime, you have Mary and I's contact information there, and we can connect you with the subcommittee as well. So thanks again for your time. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks, Marcus.